Welcome back, dear viewers, and as you've seen on your screens, Morning Baraka, the show Morning Baraka, and we have a Muharram special this series, as well as an Arba'in special, as well as seeing on your screens right now the millions of people going towards Imam Hussein alayhi salam in Karbala. The walk is from Najaf, typically, the walk is from Najaf to Karbala itself, comprising of, I believe, 86 kilometers or maybe more. Around the 80 to 90 kilometer part, people walk all this way. So for the viewers in the United Kingdom, and this is probably the most I can relate it to, someone was telling me that it's approximately walking from London to Birmingham. And when people actually, when the West ask questions of, oh, why do people walk? You know, you guys look like you're crazy, for example, walking in the heat from one city to the other. Well, I say, well, on the other side, people do charity runs. People do charity marathons where they walk from one certain area to another for a cause. And our cause is Imam Hussein. Our cause is to stand up and to show our support for a message which helps humanity. And that's exactly why we walk. And as you've seen on your screen, some amazing scenes there of people giving out food, people giving out, offering shelter, offering water for the many visitors of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And on this part of the show, Morning Baraka, we are in the verses of love. And this is where we connect to Imam Hussein alayhi salam through emotions, through lamentations, recitations and poetry. Today we focus on recitations. In a sense, we are joined by, once again, Imran Datoo, very appreciative of your time. Of course, I know that post Muharram and leading up to Arba'in, you're very busy with recitations as well as other priorities as well, which we'll talk about in the different episodes. Essentially, just to recap, but first of all, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum.
Just to recap from our last episode, we were talking about the different forms and the different styles of recitations. And from yourself growing up in an Urdu background, you had to kind of adapt a bit because the English is quite difficult to really do the Urdu directly, especially when it comes to the actual latum, the matam itself. So you found a bit of a niche in the middle of that, and you can deliver the poetry by also giving justice to the English language, as well as giving justice to the melody of the Urdu background, right?
Absolutely.
So today, we ended with that episode with a collaboration between you and Nouri, right?
Yeah.
And I want to talk about this for today because I know that within the whole Shia world, there's a lot of collaborations that happen between different reciters and poets, or reciters and reciters, or poets and poets. From your perspective, is this the first time that you've worked with Nouri, and have you worked with other poets before? But specifically with Nouri, how many times have you worked with Nouri, and what's your experience has been like with him?
So with brother Nouri, it's not my first time actually. Alhamdulillah, when I first dove into this English type of Latin, he was one of my first poets, alhamdulillah. So I was blessed. I know people, his poetry is very highly valued, mashallah, and like I said, may Allah reward him for continuously writing in such a beautiful manner. So with him, I remember the first one was about Own and Muhammad. There was a event, I believe, in Leicester, Evening of Grief and Sorrow, I believe it was. Yeah. And working with Nouri, it's alhamdulillah, firstly, he's a very good guy. So me personally, I always only will work with those who practice what they preach, if you will. So I find it very important, I think, when it comes to your akhlaq, and when you recite and when you write and you talk about the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, I find it very important to follow their teachings. And you'll always get individuals who may not follow that path, but I mean, khair. But personally, my preference is to work with somebody who is also a down-to-earth individual, and alhamdulillah, Nouri is a very nice down-to-earth person. And it's very easy to work with in terms of communication and his work as well. His poetry is always, he always tells me, I mean, the way me and him work is I'll always send him a tune first, a composition. He will then fill the words, and not every poet can do it because it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy to do that. So I come up with my own creation, but he will still manage to find a way to fit the syllables in, etc., which is a very impressive talent to have. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. I've had that experience as well. So how have you had that How does that differ with the other poets that you
So with the other English poets as well who I use, mashallah, brilliant poets, they prefer to write first. So, but I see good in that as well for me, because to make a tune just out of your head, it's not too difficult, as in you can come up with something fairly good.
Yeah.
But if you have the words there, and then to actually, so that was something I hadn't done before, where I get the words first and then I work on a tune, and I used to struggle with that. So I use this opportunity to actually challenge myself, if you will, to kind of look at the words first and then create a tune on that. So in that sense, so now alhamdulillah I've got to a stage where I can do it both ways. So, so it makes sense for me. So even if I do get a poem written, or I make the tune first, alhamdulillah, I can still come together in the end.
So what you're saying is that there's two ways of creating a track, or doing a matam or a latmiya, and in a sense is either from a poet's perspective, it's either you get the poem and then you have to create a melody based on the poem.
Correct.
Or you create a melody in your head, and then deliver that to the poet, and the poet writes. So which one do you prefer?
To be honest, I like it when the poet gives me the words first, because, and I tell Brother Noreen this as well, it makes it easier for the poets as well, because firstly the poet can, whatever's in their mind, whatever's in their heart, they can put that on paper without worrying about anything needing to fit a tune, etc., etc. So from that point of view, for them, it's easy. Then,
but then for yourself, but for yourself, if it's not structured in a set poetic structure, then could you still put a melody on that? No.
So because now with this Urdu niche, as you're saying, we do require it to be structured. So I will tell the poet, or I'll tell Brother Nouri syllables. So for example, keep the lines the same, if you will. That just makes it easier, and it will fit into the niche that I guess we're working on.
Right.
But with that, it gives me the opportunity when I'm creating the melody to, because as you know, with certain words or certain lyrics, different melodies match to it. You can't have any old melody for, you need to have happy tones, sad tones. When you want to stress on a particular word, you'll have a different note. So it allows me to be creative in that sense, to have the words. So the poet's been fully creative by not being restricted with anything but the lines, and I get to be creative when it comes to finding the melody.
Do you find it hard to create a melody for yourself? I feel like, for me personally, I feel like if I get the poem, I can create a tune better than me just sitting down and then sort of humming and with myself.
Yes, I think it's got to a stage now where I also prefer the words to come to me first, and then because of the no limitations of creativity then, so you can, because like I said, with the lyrics and stuff, it will change, your mind will change, you will want to bring out emotion at particular places and stuff, and so I'd much prefer now having the words first and then creating the melody.
And how long has this been going?
So with the English, we released my first English track, like a studio version, on I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I think now. So ever since then, and prior to that actually, wow, so it's been a long time now that you mentioned it. It just feels like yesterday we started the English, but it has, alhamdulillah, it's come a long way. And in fact, last year in my album, Muharram album I released, I didn't actually have any English tracks. But I was getting people ask me, why did you not release an English track? Because normally when you do it, they respond. So which made me realize that, actually this really has an impact, and sometimes more than the Urdu, especially in the West. The English will have a bigger impact because they can relate to the lyrics, because they can also relate to the style. So,
and even when it comes to the way I see it is, when it comes to the Iraqi or Urdu, whatever, there's a plethora of reciters, and they're probably people better than me and you, doing the experts in their field. Excuse me. And that's why I feel like within the English, myself, yourself, Sayyid Haider Jazani, and other reciters out there, I feel like there's a whole audience to be reached when it comes to English.
Absolutely.
Parents, I know that firsthand, parents, they want to give a bit of value and substance to their children in order for them to listen to, and they want to use English. Because it's good for their children. So if we're not going to do that, and we're going to stick to our Iraqi or Urdu, then you know, it's a shame, right?
Yeah.
Because the need is out there.
Absolutely, and it's that responsibility that we also have, being reciters.
Exactly.
To spread that message in the best way we can, even if that means using English. And it's a good thing, absolutely. I think it's a very good thing.
Yeah, so today we're focusing on collaborations. Who else have you collaborated with?
So when it comes to poetry, in English, I've worked with Brother Raza Abbas Rizvi. He's a good dear, again, very, very nice guy. You know, he's from Manchester. Again, so I love his poetry as well. And he's one that if I have any event coming up, even if it's like a couple of days, 3 days away, he'll write one for me. So it's, and again, excellent work, excellent work.
English or Urdu?
English.
Oh, English.
This is English, yeah.
How does he differ to Nouri?
So it's different because they're both, I guess, expertise in their own ways. So Raza, I feel, will focus more on the actual masaib of what happened.
Okay.
Whereas Nouri, also focusing on the masaib, he'll kind of, I guess, find different perspectives to put it with.
Yeah.
So it works. Again, you have to choose which poet for which event, and so things like that. And even there's Brother Zain Awan, from Peterborough, so he's with us, so he's just a doorstep away from me, so that's convenient in that sense. Alhamdulillah, great work on that he does as well.
And when it comes to the tracks as well, do you pick and choose different poets?
Yes, I like to vary my the poets I work with, because so then it gives a different vibe, and different ideas come onto paper with each poet, because if you use the same one, sometimes they can all blend in and have very similar ideas.
Yeah. We will touch upon something in the next episodes in terms of what you prefer to recite when it comes to live recitations, and how does that differ when it comes to recording in a studio. But when it comes to a live recitation for yourself, why would you choose a certain poem over the other?
So with the live one, it's always tricky because it has to be dependent on the crowd. Now, I know some people will say that, you know, it shouldn't worry about the crowd, it's all for Imam Hussein, it's all for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 100%, I agree. However, when you go to a majalis, when you go to a crowd, etc., you want to impact them the best you can. So for the crowd that you have, so for example, if you go to an event where you know the crowd will, with due respect, won't be of high Urdu understanding, I will select a poem that has basic Urdu, which will still deliver the message, and it will impact that crowd, because you don't want anyone to go home saying, I didn't really gain anything. So that being the idea, you would have to choose what you recite, and the type of recitation it is based on the crowd or based on the event. Again, if it's an event based around Sayyidah Zahra, you'd pick topics related to Sayyidah Zahra. So then people have come there to mourn Sayyidah Zahra.
So moving forward, you've just released another album. Response is fantastic. So moving forward, looking into the next year, to putting in mind collaborations, or maybe even not collaborations, how do you see yourself developing?
So I mean,
track-wise, by the way, just album-wise.
Studio track-wise, yeah. I mean, ideas that I've had is to actually collaborate with reciters as well. So, for example, you've also been, inshallah, on the list, and we will, inshallah, make something work.
Definitely.
The idea being to try get into this English vibe, but maybe in a little bit more than just this niche that we've picked. So maybe to kind of appeal to the non-Muslims even, so something that they would listen to. So, you know, because the idea is of reciting is doing tabligh, again, in my opinion, in your own way. Now, you can recite to the already converted or the Shia born, and for them they will agree, yes, Imam Hussein, Karbala, Ashura. But you have the non-Muslims who, you know, like my colleagues, for example, naturally working with them, they will find out about this life you have outside of work, and they will be interested. But on, you know, on YouTube, things like that, if you just have Urdu, what they won't understand. They won't
relate to them.
So even English, but in this kind of Urdu vibe, I've had an experience. They do say, yeah, it's nice, whatever, but I don't see any impact on them. So I think what they listen to try attain, not obviously any instruments or anything like that, but trying to attain to those vocals, those things that they may be receptive to.
Yes.
Talking about Imam Hussein, I think that's next. That's something has to be in the pipeline. It has to. It has to be.
Yeah. And look, fascinating discussion. Really enjoyed it, and I think you've touched upon a lot of important stuff, which we'll definitely discuss in the next couple of episodes. But again, once again, thank you so much for your time, Imran. Really appreciate it. Up next, it's Dear Masuma with Zahra Kazmi and Masuma Jafar, and today they'll be discussing as what's currently going on. It's The Walk with Masuma Jafar and Zahra Kazmi.